Hello and welcome. My name is Tom Davies. I'm the head professional at Performance Golf by Tom Davies, based here in Bratislava, Slovakia. I'm coming at you today with some tips to help you people who struggle with chipping. So the video is going to take two parts. Firstly, I'm going to talk about some of the common faults that I see when people come to me who struggle with their chipping. And I can guarantee if you struggle with your chipping, you will probably have at least one of those faults. Then from there, what I'll do is I'll suggest a number of different fixes that will help you to overcome those problems in your short game. So let's start first of all with what I tend to see from people who struggle with chipping. And I'm going to start first of all with the setup. So typically I think there's two reasons why people will have a bad setup when they're chipping. Firstly, it's from poor instruction, where they've maybe been told the wrong thing. And secondly is that people have made some subconscious adjustments because they've hit a number of bad shots and they alter their technique accordingly. So what do I typically see? Well, I will often see people with a very, very open stance, people with the ball too far back in that stance. So for right-handed golfers, the ball is often opposite the right foot. In combination with that, because the ball is so far back in the stance, what I see is that the hands are a long way ahead of the golf ball and also the weight is a long way forward. And that's going to cause a number of issues when it actually comes to making the swing and making contact with the ball. The first of those, and you'll be able to see on the camera here, that as I move the ball back in my stance and my weight and hands forward, that the loft on this club is going to be much less and less. And what will happen is if I return that club at impact back into the same position, I'm really going to struggle with launching the ball too low. One of the issues we get from the ball coming out too low is people really struggle to control the distance that the ball goes. And that's one of the key skills for chipping, because most of us can hit the ball straight. We don't need to worry about left and right dispersion with chipping. The key skill for chipping is controlling the distance that the ball goes. In tandem with taking much of the loft off the face of the club, what also will happen in the swing as the ball goes back and the weight that the handle goes forward is that the angle of approach will be quite steep down into the ball. That's going to cause us some real issues with controlling the strike on the ball. And what we tend to find is that we have issues with where we strike the ground, but also whereabouts on the club face we strike the golf ball. So what I will tend to find is that people who have this kind of setup will tend to be very steep down into the ball and will maybe contact the ball sometimes thin and sometimes a little bit fat. So number one, if we can control the strike, we're going to be much more consistent with our chipping, and a lot of that will come from the setup. So let's have a look at what I would recommend be a standard setup for a standard chip shot, and we'll start from the ground upwards. So we'll look at the feet first of all. So as I said, a lot of people will come to me for chipping and they will open their stance. So for right-handed golfers, they aim too far to the left. What I would recommend is that actually the stance is square, so straight on. That's important because how you stand will have an influence on the path that the club takes through the ball. And really we want to make things as neutral as possible. We don't want to have to make manipulations in the swing because of a faulty setup. So we want to be square to our target. We also want a very narrow stance. So I would say for a standard chip shot, the heels should be about one club head width apart. Okay? But the toes are going to be slightly further apart, and the reason for that is I want you to turn the left foot out a little bit, because that is going to increase the mobility in the left hip, which is going to be really important when we come on to how to actually make the swing for chipping. Turning this left foot out just allows you to move these hips a little bit better through the swing, allows it to open up a little bit. If the toe is turned in square, there's not the same amount of movement in this left hip. Just give that a go yourselves. Turn that foot out a little bit and you should be able to feel much more turn in that hip. Point the toe straight forward and the hip can't turn quite so far. So what we'll see is maybe one club head width apart in the heels and maybe 2.5 apart in the toes. Now that will give the impression that maybe the stance is open because the line of the toes points slightly to the left, but if you were to look at my heels, my heel line would be square. Just because the left toe is turned makes the stance look more open. So nice narrow stance, and ball position, which we'll come back to, is going to be in the middle of that stance. Then I want knees and hips all in line and over my feet. So I don't want to be excessively leaning my hips this way or that way. So weight distribution of about 50-50 in the feet. Moving on to the upper body. Really important that we get the upper body aligned correctly. And here I'm talking about an imaginary line drawn from the head through the sternum down to the belly button, and we want those to be in a straight line. What I'll see with a lot of maybe poorer golfers is that it's tilted to the right. Now the problem with that is this is going to move the bottom of the swing back behind the ball. So typically, if you're too far tilted to the right here, you're going to struggle with hitting the ground behind the ball. Something else that I see, not so often, but maybe more with good players, is actually this tilts, the spine tilts a little bit too much to the left, which can come from people being told that you need to get more of your weight on your left hand side. So the problem with this now is that the bottom of the swing has moved too far in front of the ball, and I'll maybe have issues with a slightly steep angle of approach down into the ball, which again is going to affect the height and give me difficulty controlling the strike. So I want a straight up and down spine, so not tilted this way and not excessively tilted this way, as straight as possible. Going on to the grip and how to hold the club, just a normal standard grip, however you decide to do it, whether you interlock or overlap. And I have no real personal preference for whether you hold it at the top of the grip or down at the bottom of the grip. The most important thing is that the hands are on the grip. There's no need to hold all the way down onto the actual metal of the shaft. So let's recap. Feet nice and close together, left toe turned out, ball in the middle of the stance, and the spine, upper body in as much as a straight line as we can do. So you're going to look in this kind of position. Very, very different to what I say a lot is this kind of position. Now we're going to move on to talking about what happens in the swing and some of the problems that are caused by this faulty setup. So open stance, ball back, weight too far forward. People struggle to control the distance. Ball comes out too low, the ball comes out too fast. So what I see a lot is a long backswing, and then people try to take the speed out and end up hitting a lot of these kind of shots. So very, very poor contact with the ground. What I also see a lot is people who have been told in their full swing and they carry it through to their short game is to keep their head down. So I will see a lot of golfers hitting their chip shots like this. And again, that's going to make it very difficult to control where you contact the ground. So what do I like to see in the swing and a chip shot, and what are some of the things that will help you? Well, once we've got our setup sorted, we're nice and neutral, ball is in the middle of the stance. What I like to see on the backswing is that as the body and the club move back, we introduce a little bit of bend into this right wrist. I see people who've maybe been taught that they should chip maybe like a putting action and try to lock the wrist out, and what we end up seeing with people like that is really no athletic movement in there at all. And again, people who will struggle to control where the club makes contact with the ground. Combine that with the head down and I see a lot of people chipping like this. But what I'm going to say to you is I want to see you use your body more when you're chipping. So set up as the club swings back. Notice how my hips are moving, shoulders are moving, and this right hand is bending a little bit. And what I'm going to do as I swing down is I'm just going to maintain that angle at the back of the right hand. Not going to add to it because I don't want to lean the shaft excessively forward, but you can see if I just maintain that angle, the club will come up pretty much straight up and down. Maybe the hand's a little bit ahead of the club head. And what that is going to help me to do is firstly is maintain the natural loft on the club. If I lean it too much, I take the loft off, but also maintain the bounce on the bottom of the club. If I lean the handle too far forward, I remove the bounce. If I lean it back, I'll add more bounce. So we're trying to make things as neutral as possible in this shot. So club goes back, a little bit of a hinge in the right hand, and here is why I was telling you it was important to turn this toe out before, because what I want to see is as you turn through, is that the hands, arms and body are all in sync, and as you turn through, the body turns as well. And you can see here that the right heel actually comes off the ground. So I'm not staying planted to the ground like this, okay? Moving this toe out allows this hip to move and allows me to rotate this way. So instead of maybe getting shots like this that we see from people who struggle with chipping, where they're taking a divot, if we can get the setup right, so nice and neutral, go in the middle of the stance, very narrow, toe turned out, spine nice and straight up, we go back, turn through, helps us to control where the club makes contact with the ground, how it makes contact with the ground, and clips the ball away. So there's no divot there, the contact with the ground is much better. So have a go. I'm sure you will have found some things in there that will maybe resonate with your own short game and some of your chipping problems. Have a go with some of those things. Let us know how you get on in the comments below. You can follow us on our other social media platforms, Facebook and Instagram, which is Performance Golf SK, all lowercase, all one word, and the links will be in the description to this video below. Hope to see you again soon.